Hello and welcome to another episode of SAYge Real Stories. Today I'm joined by Gina Fico, who is a lifelong Jersey girl, and she's the proud owner of Bayrock Digital Marketing. But that career came after a journey of self work and self discovery to get to a point where she could be the proud owner of her own business. Gina really struggled with something that many of us struggle with on varying levels, which is self doubt and fear of failure. Her self doubt and low self esteem paralyzed her, truly paralyzed her for many years in her life and caused a really poor state of mental health. What she did to get through that is the story she's going to share with us today. Welcome to the SAYge Real Stories podcast, where we are hearing from real women who have a story to share. As women, we face many different challenges as we navigate through this thing called life. But no matter what it is, someone has been there, has been through those woods and charted a path. Hearing these stories can be so valuable. They can inspire us, empower, make us feel like we aren't alone. At SAYge, we're taking it one step farther, and we are connecting you with that woman who has the story you need to hear. To have a conversation where you can ask questions and have a mutually meaningful connection. We made it really easy. All you have to do is click the link in the bio, and we will connect you with any SAYge that you would like to chat with. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this SAYge Real Story. I'm so happy, Gina, that you're here and you're opening up yourself to such, in such a vulnerable way so that we can hear an authentic story of your journey and, really hear how you navigated this and what you did to get to the point you're at today so that you might be able to help other women who are going through this difficult series in their life as well. So, Gina, welcome
Thank
to the
you.
Serial Stories podcast. What's your story? Tell us, how did it begin for you?
I was born in the late 90s. I was living in Bayonne, New Jersey at the time my parents were. And, from what I remember, early on, uh, just, a happy kid who liked to have fun, would go on like little adventures with, my parents, my grandmothers. And that was kind of how I remember my early childhood.
When did you feel some of this self doubt kicking in?
Was given a lot of confidence by my family when I was, in the house or when I would go, visit, my family, like my grandmothers. And they always gave me a lot of confidence, not, you know, so much confidence where it turned me into somebody that would be like condescending or, degraded others, but they always reminded me of my strengths. So those really early years, I was, pretty confident, being the center of attention in a way. But then once I started hitting school, and it started off with finding out that, you know what, you're not as good as the other kids. That's when I started to really ask myself, am I as good? And this happened really early on, like in kindergarten. So
I was
really,
going
as soon
to
as
ask
I,
you, yeah, what grade are we talking here? So, kindergarten. So,
yeah,
coloring, gym class, and you perceived, I guess not perceived, but you picked up on that comparison. What do you think it was something that you were extra sensitive to, or do you just think there was a natural comparison and it just sort of what for the first time, being an only child, you had to realize that.
you're also talking about an immature mind thinking, but it was just the beginning of
Mhm.
feeling like this.
And it brings up this point where I think there is sort of a really change in parenting in our generation, where the generation right before us really was tough love, you're not special. And then suddenly parents became really, it started being like participation trophies
Yeah.
and that whole era of parenting, and especially being an only child. I have an only child. I have a daughter, and she's really praised constantly by, us, but her family, her
Yeah,
grandparents. She's the only grandchild, and and so I often, wonder if it's too much and if we're doing that too much. There's a balance, but clearly you had a healthy childhood, and I think this is a normal phenomenon. I'm curious to see now how it played out in the rest of your schooling once that sort of slap in the face came.
oh, it just continued to evolve, and it was really those first few years, it was really hard, and those things that I wasn't good at, that's what, kind of started to erode my confidence little by little. And then once I hit like middle school, and now it was like, the big girls club. And now I was just in this big school, and everybody wanted to be so cool, and they didn't want to, really be your friend. So, on top of just dealing with the feelings that every, preteen deals with, and then this past that I had, it kind of just made the perfect storm of somebody who was starting to really, be really critical of herself.
Helper. So it sounds like social and academic struggles.
Yeah, I was doing, okay academically. I never failed out of a class. And I did have, some people that I talked to, but it was just hard because like I wasn't really into socially what they were into. I was just still wanted, to do things that maybe they thought were a little immature, or and I just wasn't into that tween scene that was, really prominent in those days. So I just wanted to, kind of be myself, and that isn't too widely accepted when you're, 12, 13 years old.
I get that. Again, my daughter is in that phase
Yeah.
right now, and it's a shame. It sounded like in many ways you really had a good sense of self where you didn't feel like you need to keep up with those kids, but yet you still felt.
I didn't want to be part of, certain groups, but I also wanted to have friends in middle school more so than I did, and have those memories. And
Mm, did you have a friend, like one that kind of your person?
I did. Yeah, I had a few friends, but it was just not what I envisioned.
What would have been the ideal situation for Gina?
It would have been to have, well, let's talk about, like, the physical appearance. I always thought that the perfect teenager was pretty tall, had straight blonde hair, and cool clothes. And I wasn't into that, and I didn't have the long, straight blonde hair and the height and that body frame. So some of it was in my control, that wasn't my personal style. Some of it was out of my control. I just didn't have that look. But then it was just somebody who was always out, who would always be out with their friends and was never home, and would spend all night on the phone, and would just be at the mall all the time, and maybe even getting into some trouble. And I just, that's not what I really wanted to do. It wasn't that my parents were too strict. I wasn't into it, and then because I didn't have that personality, I wasn't included in those groups. But high school, I started to, get more friends. I still wasn't into the scene, that, most high schoolers are into, but that was okay because in high school, you could be a little bit more of an individual.
Yeah, in high
So
school, you're sort of able to be more individual. It's almost cool, becomes cool to be an individual.
it does. So my interest in writing and movies and those kind of nerdy, subjects, I found people that were into that. And I was, doing social activities. I was going and enjoying more dances. I had my group of friends that we would do similar activities with. So high school was better in terms of socially. I did better academically. Um, was still very hard on myself, very critical of myself, but it was definitely, an easier time than middle school. Yeah. So I graduated high school and I would say I was an average, maybe slightly above average student. And then the plan was always to go to community college because I had this like kind of homebody personality and I wasn't ready to go away. So I started at a community college and I studied journalism. Now college is even more, you could be even more of an individual than high school. And I was doing, classes that I enjoyed. But when those, you know, roadblocks and those bumps in the road came, that's when it derailed. So that's something that I've learned about myself, that any kind of inconveniences, kind of bring back the not so great feelings about myself. Issues started coming. I would just tell myself, like, if I fail out of college, it's done. Because, like, what else? I'm an only child. So, what else do my parents have now? Like, to be proud of? Like, if, their only child failed out, it's over. And that's how I really felt. And I would go as
You're
far
putting
as,
an
yeah,
immense amount of pressure on yourself.
yeah.
Um, okay, so you got a associate's, or what was
I
the
got an
certificate?
associate's, yeah, and then I got a certificate in media technology. So I was done with college, like, for good, in 2018. That was a tough year. I talk to people, they're like, "You know what? It was normal. People sometimes take a while to find a job." But looking back at it, it was really hard because now I was the adult that I always feared I would be. Somebody who wasn't going to school, wasn't working, really wasn't making much use of her time. And I would always like make fun of people like that, that stereotype, typical, like, lazy person. And now I was that. And it was just really hard to build up the confidence again
Back
to
there
look.
for a minute. The stereotypical lazy person. What did that
Yeah,
look like in your mind? What was that bad stereotype?
it's somebody who
Describe
doesn't
it.
do, yeah, they don't go to college, done with high school, they don't work, they kinda just, stay up all night, sleep all day, they don't really they kinda just, kinda just suck, off their parents what they have, and just, don't make use of their time, don't really contribute to society, aren't part of society. I was just doing things like spending, hours at the mall and going out to eat.
Yeah. But was it laziness for you personally, or was it just you could not find a job?
I think it was more not wanting to get out of a comfort zone
Mm,
or fear of failure, not want just scared of what kind of options were out there and how that next step looked like. I mean, I
mhm.
would apply for a few jobs, but, not that many, a few jobs here and there. And, if I didn't get it, I would just be like, kind of feel low about that and then just not apply for another one, after a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah, the comfort zone. That's
Yeah,
really powerful because a lot of people let their fears, I mean,
yeah,
prevent them from many things, and it's
yeah,
in getting out of that comfort zone is really difficult, especially if you're a person prone to the default setting of not good enough
yeah,
or fearing a failure.
yeah,
So, all right, so you kind of had this realization that you didn't want to be this lazy stereotype person mooching off their parents. So, what did
yeah.
you then do?
So one day we just came back a few weeks ago from summer vacation and I haven't worked, in over a year now. And I just was on the couch one August day and I said, you know what? I want to apply for a job, in the schools to be a teacher's aide. I applied for it. I got called in for an interview. The interview sounded promising and I wound up getting it. It took a while to kind of get started because I had to get, it's a school job, so you had to get like fingerprinted and background checks and checkups and all that. But I finally started working a few months after that. And that first day, I just, felt like a totally different, person. Yeah.
Did you have a special empathy for those kids, and
I
do
did.
you think that helped fulfill you in that
I
role?
did at the time, but I feel like I have it more now because going on, like, really a healing journey and kind of doing that inner child work, um, I feel like, I'm more aware of it. I was still in those early stages back then of, like, trying to just kind of numb it out. I worked for 4 months, and then what happens? COVID. So
Mm,
we shut down, and, it's a worldwide pandemic, like, it's out of anyone's control.
yeah.
What can you do? Like, the whole world is upside down. So, I kinda just take this time to, like, okay, you're locked down, you can't see your friends, you gotta, like, really, heal and, do some deep work, and I kinda just, came to terms with certain things about myself and certain things that I like, certain things that I don't like, and just that's what I how I utilized the pandemic, and that led to me, starting a business, taking these passions that I have for, marketing and all that. I like to write, I like social media, so let me do something and see how that goes.
How did you take the leap to starting Bayrock?
It
What
was yeah. It was crazy. It was, November 8th, 2020, so we were, in COVID, and it was, all the craziness with the election, and it was just a lot of turmoil, a lot of craziness going on in our country and in our community and, bracing for, like, the first holiday season in the pandemic. We never see that before, and I just felt like now's the time. Okay, it's doesn't seem like it's going to be the time because things are completely crazy. But let's just do it. Let's just see how it goes.
and what was your first step? What did you do first?
I just wrote to a community page. Hey, my name is Gina. I'm offering digital marketing services now. Reach out if you need anything. And I got somebody from that post. And then I just started kind of growing it, with networking, keep creating and keep learning ways to monetize that more so I could, live a comfortable life.
Doing something you're passionate about, because it seems like the common thread of your life, sort of when you have felt your best, at your most
Yeah,
confident, it's when you're doing something you're most passionate about. It's like, okay,
100%.
I am doing something that I feel kind of fills my soul.
Yeah.
And that gives you, it seems, that sort of that confidence to just be yourself because you're being, fulfilled.
Yep, totally.
That's incredible. What a great lesson,
Thank you.
and what a great journey to share with us, Gina. We
Mhm.
all have such different stories, but so many common threads
Yep.
as women. And I have had women on the podcast that have billion-dollar businesses, and women that are just starting off humbly, like yourself, with a side hustle that fulfills them. And regardless of what we've been able to achieve or where our path has taken us, there's so much that we share on a human level. And feeling, fear of failure and feeling self-doubt, I can't tell you how common it is. And so thank you for sharing your unique journey with that, Gina, and your unique story. And I think I'm so just happy as to what you've been able to accomplish in the last few years and what you've been able to realize. And I think that you are headed for continued upward trajectory and success.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's really lovely to hear that. And I think that, it's just so important that, we as women just lift each other up. So that's why I love this podcast.
Supporting each other, and also like helping each other know that we're not alone in these journeys, and that
Yep.
we are all sharing these very, very common human components of our lives. And Gina has offered to connect with anyone who is listening to this story and it resonates with them and you'd like to chat with Gina, connect with her as with all of our sages. So we're not alone on our journey, and Sage is a network to be here for each other. Thank you, Gina, for being part of this network.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I hope that by sharing the story today, I'll be able to make one woman feel like I felt in my life.